Welcome to Mysterious Goings On, Chapter 34. Hey, thanks for tuning back in. I know I promised an episode for November and it didn't happen, but hey, look, it's December, so I only missed a month. So my New Year's resolution is to have at least a dozen episodes next year, so one a month. And if I screw up and don't do one for 6 months, then I have to do 6 in 1 month to catch up. That is what I'm going to do from here on out. That is completely reasonable, I think. But anyway, I'm Alex Greenwood, your host, and I want to say happy holidays to you if you're into the whole Santa Claus thing, ho, 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 and all that stuff. And hey, we've got a nice show for you today. It's a quick one, just something for you to kind of put your earbuds on and enjoy if you're trying to duck, crazy Uncle Larry and don't want to hear his political opinions during the holidays. At least we'll give you about a half hour that you can zone out, tune out. And I'm excited because we're going to be joined by friend of the show, writer, illustrator, raconteur extraordinaire, Jason McIntyre, and he'll be with us in just a moment. Okay, a couple updates for you. Thank you to all the folks who bought copies of the new book, Big Cabin and Dispatches from the West. It's done all right. My grandfather would be very pleased. I hope wherever in the universe he may be, he has some inkling that people are reading and saying his name and enjoying his work again. I'm pretty excited that it all worked out. I was just at lunch the other day with somebody I hadn't seen. It was an acquaintance of mine who I hadn't seen in 2 years, and we talked for about 45 minutes, had coffee, and then she pulls her bag in her lap, and I thought, oh, she's ready to go. I guess I've talked too much. I better, be. And instead, she pulls out of the bag a copy of the book. She says, "Here, my dad loves Westerns. Would you autograph us?" You could have knocked me over with a feather. It was just a really nice moment to have. So thanks, Lori. I appreciate that, and I hope your stepfather really enjoys the book. Okay, so Big Cabin is out there. It's on sale now. We've had a few countdown deals, things like that, and we've got sold a few. But if you have anybody who's looking for a great Western yarn or two, please give it a consideration. It is exclusively on Amazon.com as a paperback and an ebook, and I can autograph copies for you, of course. Just let me know. You can order through pilotescross.com. So that's out there. There may be some more for my grandpa. Probably not in 2019, but maybe in 2020. I've dug into a trove of some of his other writing, and I'm going to do some research and try to find some of the stuff he put in the pulp fiction magazines in the 50s that are out of print now. If I can get my hands on some of those, we might do an ebook only little compendium of his short stories and a few other little nice little tidbits. So stay tuned for that. Congrats to our winners, by the way. We had a giveaway. Terry and Dawn. They're not together. They're just two separate people who won autographed copies of the book, and I hope they enjoy that very much. In fact, Terry was on Twitter and had a picture of herself holding up the book in front of a Christmas tree, recommending it. And thank you, Terry. I appreciate that. So that's the latest on that. And I am going to go ahead and tell you right now that knocking on wood, and barring any problems, I plan to work on the omnibus edition for John Pilate Mysteries next year. So start on that. Excuse me. I'll start on that right after the holidays end. And what's going to happen with that, if you don't remember from previous episodes, is we're going to get all the first 6 books, and we're going to put them in a 2 paperback set, an omnibus edition, and it will be with a new cover. I've got a great cover artist in mind. We're negotiating, and we're going to have a great new cover on it, and we're going to include a new John Pilate novella, but this will only be available as a paperback. We're not going to make it available as an ebook. The reason being, you can get all the stories as an ebook, and the whole purpose of the omnibus really is to have something you can hold in your hand and put on your shelf. That doesn't mean someday we might not, convert it to an ebook, but right away I just like to offer just something you can heft and carry under your arm and pull out at the coffee shop. So that's going to be something we're going to do. It's going to take a lot of work. We're going to take the first 6 books and reformat them and put them into a nice, handsome couple of volumes. And I mean, it could be one big fat book, but I think it'll look better if it's a couple of volumes side by side, and might even look into slipcases. Who knows? I doubt it, but we'll see. So stay tuned for that. I'll talk more about that at length in a future episode. Just know that I'll be working on that. And yes, John Pilate lives. I'll just go ahead and ruin the surprise. He does live, and he will return in a new John Pilate mystery novella in the omnibus edition. Title reveal will be the spring. Cover reveal will be this summer. And the plan is to have the omnibus edition ready for order by Halloween, so you can have plenty of time to buy copies for yourself, for your family, for your neighbor's dog's cousin, everybody. All right. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring on my friend, your friend of the show, the author of so many great books, and more than that, just a really fun guy, from our dear friend, Jason McIntyre. Jason, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Oh, wow.
It's good to have you.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you fit all those people in your den.
Isn't it crazy how they're all...
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good people, and most of the time they behave themselves, and... Sir, you're going to have to leave. Otherwise, they're pretty good. So, Jason...
You clearly didn't tell them that you were having me as your guest today.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh. Thanks for having me.
It's good. How are things?
Things are swimming along, as they say. Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
True.
Yeah. How are you?
Well, I mean, I woke up 2 days ago with a kind of a nasty cold. I think you had this a few weeks ago, didn't you? Like a stuffy head, cold, scratchy throat, cough. Did you have this?
If I told you that, I was lying, because lucky me, I haven't been sick in close to 3 years. It's been amazing.
I thought maybe you just were having like a bad day, or you had bad night's sleep or something.
Maybe. I suppose that's possible. But yeah, I was just thinking of this yesterday when you mentioned that you were feeling under the weather. I honestly can't remember any time in the last 3 years that I've felt sick or had a cold or a flu symptom. So, knock on wood.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. Are you feeling better though?
I took some fizzy kind of Alka-Seltzer Plus. I don't know if you have that in Canada. It's a cold.
Yes.
Well, I don't know.
I love when you say that stuff.
Well, I don't. It could be under a different. It's like, okay, when I went to, I used to go to England, and I realized England, Great Britain, and Canada, it's a little different. They're on different continents and all that. But I would go and I wanted something like that, and they were like, well, all we have is paracetamol or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And they're like, we don't know what an Alka-Seltzer is,
Yeah,
so.
Right. That's funny.
Yeah, so I took one of those.
I would say Canada, product-wise, if you walk into any store, it's much more similar to walking into, a store in the United States than the similarity between Canadian products and British.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to mention really quickly that I saw something, and you and folks, Jason and I are buddies, and we text a lot, and like we see stuff that's interesting about writing or just life or kids or whatever. And saw something about the famed, I guess, the Dunkin' Donuts of Canada, basically, for one of it, or the Starbucks of Canada. You tell me, Tim Hortons. And it was an old piece, but I didn't realize how old it was. But it was somebody saying that, everybody needs to get over themselves that Tim Hortons isn't that great. But everybody I talk to says Tim Hortons makes really good coffee. So I want to know, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Where do you stand on the Tim Hortons debate? Is it like the Starbucks of Canada, so it's okay but too pricey, or is it more like Dunkin' Donuts where it's ubiquitous but it's okay, or what do you think?
My point of view, now I'm in Western Canada, and there's a Tim's on every corner, and my understanding is I haven't been into Eastern Central Canada in the last few years. My understanding is there's actually more Tim Hortons franchise locations in Ontario, Southern Ontario, and Quebec, and Eastern Canada than we have here, and we have a ton here. So You use the word ubiquitous. Tim's is ubiquitous. It's everywhere, and it's one of those things. It's kind of like McDonald's in a way. You know exactly what the flavor is going to be. If you get a BLT at a Tim's in a Western province and a BLT in, say, Southern Ontario, Toronto specifically, you're going to get the same taste, the same flavor. That said, I think the flavor is really good. I like their coffee. It's a mass market type, middle of the road coffee. They have a couple different. They have a dark roast now, so I wouldn't really compare it to a Dunkin' Donuts. I'd say it's a little bit better than a Dunkin' Donuts. I'd compare it maybe more to a Panera. Am I saying that right?
I guess, although frankly, if you were to ask me who has better coffee, I would go with Dunkin' over Panera. But I get your point.
Okay, yeah, I meant more like the presentation and the
Oh yeah.
The cleanliness and the. Well, I'm not slamming Dunkin'. I'm not saying Dunkin' is gross. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying from my perspective, the Panera Bread locations have been a little bit more. Prestigious, I guess. I don't know. No,
it's funny because Dunkin', they dropped the donuts recently. It's just Dunkin', which whatever. They have come a long way about maintaining their stores here and stuff like that. So,
well, and I haven't been in one in probably 2 years, so I don't know.
Yeah,
my perspective is skewed. In terms of the Tim Hortons story, that was a Maclean's piece. It was more of an editorial, I think, and I think it was kind of trying to cause a dust up. It was around the time that Tim's was going to be sold to whatever company, Burger King and Wendy's.
Oh, right.
The American conglomerate. And to be honest, I didn't really research. I don't know if that sale happened. I think it did. I don't know. But Canadians get in a twist when Canadian things get co-opted by America. So, Molson Canadian is now owned by, I think, is it Anheuser-Busch? I'm not even sure. Yeah. So watching, a Canadian hockey game while the Canadian beer ads play and the whole slogan behind the Canadian, like that's actually the brand name is Molson Canadian, but it's now owned by an American company. It puts kind of a bad taste in Canadians' mouths. So I think that's where the Maclean's article with the Tim's franchise being bought out, I think that's where a bit of the angst came from. Not really. I think he angled it about the quality of the coffee and the food and the donuts, but I think it was kind of an itchy skin irritation because of the possible sale.
Well, it's interesting, and I get that because you mentioned Anheuser-Busch, which is owned by InBev, which is not even American now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Belgian. So
that's right. Yeah. I think Molson was sold to that. I want to say they were sold to Anheuser, and then Anheuser was then bought by the Belgian company sometime after that. So twice removed, I guess. First Cousins twice removed or something now is our beer. But I don't really care for Canadian beer, like Molson Canadian, that particular label. I don't care for beer anyway. So it's too mass market for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Wow.
But yeah. They had a great ad campaign for about 10 years, right in my more prime beer drinking period, which was probably my 20s.
Right.
And it was the I Am Canadian, and it was very, very patriotic at a time when the best patriotism in this country was probably coming from marketing campaigns rather than our government, which is probably where it should originate. But yeah, I would even, the age of 28, they had some really powerful patriotic, I love Canada kind of ads, and then right away they were sold to an American company. That kind of put a bit of a twist in people, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
It makes sense. I'm totally with you on that. Totally. Well, we went off on a flight of fancy there, but that's just what people have come to expect when they listen to our show. So I was going to ask you, anything new in the hopper for writing, or you just kind of got your head down, or with at it? Or I don't think you have any. Did you have any new releases this year? Let's see.
No, my last release was a year ago, last December, which was the final in the 9 Dovetail Cove titles, and I've had my head down on new things, and it's too early to talk about release dates. But as you know, I have three novels in various stages, and when I say that, they basically have a first or second draft done.
Wow.
And but I can't say for sure when people will be able to get their eyeballs on them. And I don't love to make promises that I'm not sure I can keep.
Unlike
and
me.
I'm not poking anybody about when I say that.
Yeah.
No. I love all of your plans. I'm really looking forward to what you have for 2019.
Well, but please, I hope you don't think I'm one of those people who's like, I got 10 books in my head and I'm gonna write them. You know,
No, I don't think you're like that, and I don't want you or anybody to think that of me either. When I don't want to be self-aggrandizing when I say I have 3 books that are in the.
Yeah, but everybody, but dude, seriously, all they have to do is look at your output and they know you're not bullshitting anybody. You know, I mean, when J-Mac says I got 3 books ready to go, he's got them. So I think that's great. Well, you know, I'm not disappointed necessarily. I'm excited. I'm disappointed, of course. I always want new content. And it's so funny because you know this. Like I've had people. It's made me feel really good about the John Pilate series because, you know, we just released Pilate's Rose early last year or this year. And I mean, people are still all over me about it, you know, or was it late last year? But anyway, it's not been a full year, I don't think.
Well, it's a good book.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
it's got a great cover,
absolutely.
and you did a great job. But the thing is that they're like, where's the next one? Where's the next one? And I don't mean 1 or 2 people. I mean, I've had about a half dozen in the past couple of months ask me that. It was like they got excited about my grandpa's book that we put out, Big Cabin. And then they were asking me, okay, great, this is nice, but what about John Pilate? And I'm like, oh my God. So all of a sudden I'm feeling a little more excited about that. And that's why I'm looking forward to the omnibus and actually putting down some stuff about John, you know, for the novella that will go in there. But I'm excited to know that there's a lot in the hopper with you. And of course, one thing that might make people jealous is that occasionally you ask me to read bits and pieces of stuff that's in progress. And it just tickles me to no end to be able to do that. It's so exciting to kind of have a look and offer my ridiculous opinions. But so you're working on that, and everybody should just kind of. Where's a good place to keep track of you while we're thinking about this? If people are looking forward to hearing more about you or want to sign up for any kind of updates, or what's the best place?
Yeah, if I mention something or if I have news, it probably goes on Facebook and Twitter first, which is kind of funny. I don't daily or weekly keep my blog up anymore. Mm-hmm. I have the website at thefarthestreaches.com, which is thefarthestreaches.com. But if it's late breaking news kind of thing, it probably goes on social media first. And so Facebook, just do a search for Jason McIntyre, or I think it's author Jason McIntyre is the other one.
And of course, and if you follow me, you'll hear about it because I always share stuff about my buddy when he's doing stuff. But I just want to kind of make sure that was clear to everybody. And you really should check it out. Jason's doing a lot of great work, and I'm excited about what's going on. Well, the whole Dovetail Cove thing. I had somebody. Who was it? I saw a review of that series, and somebody was like, "Netflix, are you listening?" And I thought, "Oh my God, Dovetail Cove would be a perfect like mini series for Netflix or a limited series, like a couple of years or something like that." I mean, and I know I'm embarrassing you, and you're like, "Don't say that stuff," but I mean, seriously, it's folks. If you have not read the Dovetail Cove stuff, and what's really neat about it. It's in a way it's neat in a way. Some people, they got to wrap their head around this concept, though. It's not necessarily a linear story, is it, Jason?
No, absolutely not. And it was the creation of it was not linear either. That same reviewer, I think the one that you're referring to, she's a fantastic supporter. If it's the review I'm thinking of, Darcia Haley in Florida. She had another great line in a review of something of mine, and it was something along the lines of Jason McIntyre's Dovetail Cove books are released out of order because he's devious. And I really like that. There was no real plan to that, but yeah, they were completely out of order. There's 9 of them, and each one mostly takes place in 1 year during the 1970s on this island. But the first one that came out was 1977. And then the second one that came out was 1972. And then at this point, it's foggy for me which order they came out. But rest assured, they came out in completely different order. I think the third one was 1978. And then we went back to 1973. No, pardon me, 75. And then 73. And then maybe 76. And the last the second last one to come out was the first one in chronology. And I finally, over the last 10 years of writing these things, I've finally learned to say the word chronology. Took me a while.
You know, I haven't read all of it yet. I'm closing in, but I've read.
I haven't either, actually. You know, there might be one giant one left, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Well, then the original 9 are out.
Yeah.
And so the original intent was out, but there's this other thing that's been written that might just dovetail might just dovetail into the Cove, and kind of wrap things up. So there's still some Dovetail Cove stuff to be shared.
You know, I thought about Dovetail Cove. I've read Fled and Redhead, which Redhead is one of my favorites, and they're all good. Zed, and by the way, if you're hearing a theme here, folks, there's a reason for that. But you know, when I was watching Castle Rock, the anthology, kind of an anthology series that takes place in the Stephen King universe, that series. I was mixed on that. I thought it was all right. It wasn't my favorite thing, but it had some great moments. But I just kept thinking, and forgive me, this is true. I kept thinking, gosh, you know, this is nice and all, but Dovetail Cove is a lot more interesting.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I had probably a similar feeling about that Castle Rock series. I thought there was great performances in it.
Yeah.
And I thought the best part about that show, to be honest, was all the call-outs.
Yeah.
To the older, and not even that old, Stephen King books.
Yeah.
He didn't write it. He didn't produce it. He didn't have anything to do with it. I think he gave it his blessing.
Yeah.
But the best part for me was all the inside references to his stuff.
Yeah.
Just watching it for that was kind of fun and amusing. But other than that, I found it less interesting and compelling.
There's a lot of fan service in it, and which is nice. But I got to say, you know, that's one reason I don't care. One reason I don't care for the JJ verse Star Treks is, they shoehorn all this fan service in there and think, oh, well, they'll love this because we're going to mention this character from the original series that nobody's mentioned before, and they just shoehorn it in there, and it's really obvious. And no, I don't say that. I don't mean that that's what Castle Rock did, but I don't like it when, because I do fan service in my own books. I mean, you know, probably one of the most popular books in my series is Pilot 7, which is a book of short stories that really takes smaller characters who have, you know, kind of bit parts but are enjoyable and brings them to the forefront. It's the ultimate fan service in a lot of ways. So I respect the concept, but like Star Trek, I think did it poorly. Castle Rock, I think you're right, did it well. Unfortunately, though, I didn't find the rest of it all that compelling, and I had a hard time getting through it. But let me ask you, have you had a chance to get into season 2 of Mr. Mercedes, another King property that was done by the Audience Network?
I did get season 2 of Mr. Mercedes. Before we jump into that, let me just say about the fan service thing. I agree with you on the Star Trek, but I was just going to mention, don't you think that Hollywood and even television right now is kind of aimed in that direction where most of it is fan service? It seems like we're doing this period of everything's a reboot or a reimagining or a
like the crappy,
borrowing from the comic book universe. I mean, the comic book movies, they're the big tentpole things every Christmas and every summer now.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I was reading the Avengers comic books. Oh, geez, I'm dating myself now, but 25 years ago, when they were niche. And now you go to the Megaplex and see it on, 3 stories high, and you see all these little references to things from 25 years ago, because now the filmmakers are, the same age as you and I, and they all read those comic books.
Right.
I think everything is fan service now.
That's where you get.
But in terms of Mr. Mercedes, the second season was a real downer for me.
The crappy Magnum PI is another example of that, by the way.
Which I have not seen a single frame other than the trailers for that. It just looked so bad to me. I couldn't.
What's the point? What's the point? But yeah.
Colors and
Yeah, and Higgins is a woman, and their sexual
So.
and their sexual tension between Higgins and Magnum, it just doesn't work for me. It was more of a Higgins and Magnum are supposed to be more of a mentor-mentee relationship, and I just don't buy this. Magnum wants to get in Higgins' pants kind of thing. But back to Mercedes. So I enjoyed the first season immensely.
Me too.
But I'll tell you, there's two big reasons I enjoyed it, and that's Brendan Gleeson and Holland Taylor.
Oh.
Those two, in particular, I think are exceptional in that as actors. He really inhabits Bill Hodges very well, and she does a magnificent job as his neighbor. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the character's name, but
I can't recall either. But
then the young lady who plays Holly is good too, and there's some other good performances throughout. But so I was very excited about season 2, and then it was a lot of scenery chewing from the villain. I didn't understand. I mean, I understood it, but it didn't work for me. There's a whole plot device that I don't want to spoil it for people. Spoiler alert. But there's a whole plot device there that I don't want to ruin for people who want to see it, because it's not really all that visible in the United States. It's like on the Audience Network. It's very hard to find, or is it the AT&T? I don't know who does it, or Discs or Dish. I don't know who does it. But anyway, it's not like it's not a ubiquitous show. It's not like it's everywhere. So you may want to dig it up and look for yourself, particularly season 1. But if you go into season 2, I just found it tedious and frankly fairly moronic, and it kind of betrayed, in my opinion, the first season, the quality of the first season. The writing was just that, and frankly, and I'm kind of all over the road here, because I also have read the new King book, The Outsider. Same gripe about The Outsider and season 2 of Mr. Mercedes is King's fairly tropey with his characters. They're, and that's okay. I mean, tropes are kind of a shorthand for the reader, and King is a genius at that. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out motivations for his characters and try to identify who they are. And you don't. And I think people have an easy time identifying with most of his characters, and that's a kind of a tropey thing. But I found The Outsider to be just so overboard with that kind of thing, that after the first half of the book, I was feeling pretty much the same way I felt about Mercedes, the TV series. And I suspect you're going to disagree with me on that one.
I don't think so at all. For me, I do agree with what you said about character with his writing. For me, his writing is always about the flow. He has developed. I mean, what has he been writing for 40 years? His voice is so much like butter at this point.
Yeah.
And it was 25 years ago, and he's just even that much better at it. So he can take a premise like Elevation, which is his shorter novella this year, which I don't know if you've read that one.
Not yet.
But the premise and the tropey characters are bordering on ridiculous, but his style and his voice are such that you cannot help but continue reading and enjoying it.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's so with The Outsider, I agree. The first half was an incredible build-up, really, really smooth flowing. Even if it was a bit slower than most of his stuff, because he was doing more of a mystery solving kind of a thing in the first half of that book, even though we all, the readers all pretty much knew where it was going. I think, I don't know, I did, but I didn't care because of this smooth flowing butter of his narrative, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the second half it fell into tidy packages and bows, and you already know what color the bow is on bows,
Did you think the ending was just so the ending was so tacked on? It was like he got to the end and he was like, I got to end this thing somehow, so let's do it like this.
Right. And yeah, without going into the actual ending and the actual plot of what happened, I do agree. But I've also come to expect that about 50% of the time with his books. To be honest, endings have not always been. I think back to Misery. Oh, what a fantastic 2/3 of a book.
Yeah.
And then that final act. Oh man.
But I've been there too, brother. It's like sometimes I struggled with endings. Sometimes I didn't initially, like in my series, the first two, I mean, I saw the ending of the first book so clearly, and then I pretty well had it all figured out for the second and third one, but then the fourth and fifth and sixth, well, the fourth and sixth books, the fifth book being a book of short story, I really struggle with trying to end them in a way that didn't seem well, not rip-offy, but I didn't want to do it in a way that would piss off the reader. But that's very hard to do. And I don't know if he agonizes. Do you think he agonizes over his endings, or do you just think that?
I don't think he does. To be honest, I think he's when he's ready to finish it. I think he's ready to finish it. He's at the point, and he's been at the point for a couple of decades where nobody tells Stephen King you did it wrong.
Right.
You know. Lots of people do. I'm sure there's lots of reviews and lots of people on the internet, because the internet loves to pick everything apart, as we are doing right now. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't care. I don't think he does. He writes it to satisfy himself, and he's said that if he's not satisfying number one first, he's not enjoying it, and he's not gonna keep going. So, to a degree, and I got to be honest, to a degree, that's kind of how I approach it, and I've not been approaching it that way as much this year. And the struggle has been more. Yeah. For me.
The struggle is real.
Because I've been thinking more about what would a reader like. And I think that's almost death.
It is. That very thing is why Pirates, God. That is why Pilot's Rose took a year and a half longer than it should have. Because I was so worried what everybody would think. And it's just like, oh my gosh, you can't do that. I think it is death. I think it's a death to your writing if you start doing that, because it's that old saying, you try to be all things to all people, then you're nothing to nobody. And so I've just come to terms with, I've got a set number of Pilot books left, and he's going to go places that a lot of people aren't going to like. And if they fall away, they fall away. It's a story I have to tell, and there's going to be some stuff in it that some people are going to go, my God, this is spot on. This is what I want to read. And some people are going to get turned off. They're going to go, this isn't this. But I think the biggest fear I have is kind of turning my little series into, like, basically a Murder, She Wrote kind of thing. I don't want to replay the same murder or the same mystery every book or every other book. And, King, it seems to me, is, as you said, his butter. That's really good. He is so good at creating the world, the milieu, the story area. But I think he's so talented at that. He can coast so easily because he can make you so at home with the characters so easily. I think he does struggle though with finding good plot. Yeah. He has great concept, but his execution can get rocky at times, just like anybody.
Yeah, I agree. And so bringing this back a little bit to the Mr. Mercedes season 2, that they based that second season primarily on the third book of King's Hodges trilogy.
Right.
And I know you haven't necessarily read the second or third there, so I'm not gonna.
I bought Finders Keepers, and I bought End of Watch, so I'll be reading those on vacation.
And Finders Keepers is much, much better than End of Watch, because End of Watch is this third act.
Yeah.
That, and this is your word from the series, it betrays the first. And for me, what fell apart was Mr. King set out to write more of a hard-boiled kind of a private investigator. Criminal investigation. Like he's trying to solve a mystery and catch the bad guy. And he said that he always wanted to do this, and he never really got a chance in his writing career. And so he's kind of looking at things later in his career and thinking, well, what have I not done yet? So that's why he set out to write this Bill Hodges book. And the first one's fantastic, and it sets out to do just that, and it succeeds in my view. And then I think, as you kind of alluded to, he kind of fell back on the ease at which he can write and create and pull you into his world for the second and third book, where he meanders away from the hard-boiled stuff into this ghostly paranormal, not ghostly, but this paranormal extrasensory thing that the first hard-boiled reality-driven story is not about. To me, that's a betrayal. When you switch genres, to me, that's like and some franchises, movie franchises or book series do this fine. But when you've got one genre and then suddenly you throw in a time travel twist to go and clean up some mistakes, you have your characters go back and reinvent the world. That's kind of what genre twisting or genre jumping inside a series does for me. And that's
it's cheating. Too.
It's basically.
I mean, if I, it's like I think I joked with you because we talked about that. We joked a little bit. See, he wins an Edgar Award, Mystery Writers of America Award for the first book, and as he should have. It was very good, although it wasn't much of a mystery, by the way.
Right.
It was It wasn't even a procedural. It was just a hard-boiled detective story. Right. Which I love. I prefer that. I'm not really a whodunit kind of guy. Anybody who's read my books realizes it's pretty easy to figure out who the bad guys usually are. But that's fine. But it's just funny that he wins this award. But yeah, and so I'm getting into this and I'm watching the second season, and then all of a sudden there's there's a paranormal aspect to it, and I don't like it, and I resisted it, and I was kind of annoyed with it, and it made it so much more difficult for me to forgive what I thought were some really bad lapses in writing and acting. There's some actors in the second season that I thought were not very good. I thought the actors who played the physician and his wife were not good.
No, I agree.
I thought they were
however,
weak.
However, Brendan Gleeson brought it again. He had mediocre stuff to work with, but he embodied that character so well. He carried that forward into the second season, in my view. I thought he was really good.
I totally agree with you. Well, moving along there, those are some things I thought this year that really stood out for me. I got a couple other things that I've talked about previously on this show that I'll just run them by you. That 2018 that I really loved The Terror. Speaking of great acting, which it's not all male cast. There's Greta Scacchi and another actress are in it periodically in a flashback kind of thing. And but The Terror, which I won't go into too much detail other than it's the British trying to find the Northwest Passage, and it's based on a true story. They get locked in the ice, and something paranormal happens to them, and it is every bit terrifying and well acted. Kieran Hines is in it, and Jared Harris does a magnificent turn. There's some wonderful acting in there. And did you ever get to see it?
I did, and I loved it. Jared Harris in particular. Did you know, fun fact, the actual story took place just north of my house here.
I had no idea you were that close to it.
No, I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Oh, I was going to say, because I thought it was over...
Quite a bit north of my house, but almost directly north of my house, so yeah.
You had me there for a second.
I know I did. You always do that to me, so I have to do that to you on occasion.
No, seriously.
If I just, If I just harness up the dog team, I could be there in a matter of minutes.
You mean, yeah. Well, let me know how that goes, eh?
Yeah.
Make sure you wear your toque. See, since we're going down the Canadian trope
line.
Toque. Your toque.
Yeah, I'll wear my toque.
My toque.
Yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed it, and folks, I kind of went on about this I think a few months ago, and I won't do it again on this episode, but that really I really thought that was great, some great writing, and they're going to continue that it's like an anthology series, and George Takei of Star Trek fame, oh my, he is going to be in it, and it's going to focus on Japanese internment camps during World War II in the United States. So I don't know how that's going to go.
I don't know how that's going to go either.
Apparently, it's going to have a supernatural bent to it as well, so we'll see.
I get really excited when a show like that is rewarded with a second season because the first is so good.
Yeah,
I like that they're not going to go and try to rehash the first story, because that first story is basically told.
Yeah,
so I like that they're not going to cheat that way. Who knows how George Takei's version will go, but I gotta wonder, from a business point of view, not a lot of people saw The Terror.
Right.
If you look up ratings, how can a company justify a second season when 50,000 or 100,000 people watched the episodes of the first season? I don't know, and I'm glad that it's getting another season because I want to see it. Right. But when you have The Big Bang Theory pulling down 11 million viewers just in the continental U.S. per episode, and then you have The Terror, which is seeing maybe, I don't know, 50 to 100,000 views per episode. How what's the economies of scale there that they can justify another season?
I don't think, as good as it looks, I don't think it's all that expensive. They're basically a sound stage and some very few locations and your actors. I don't think it was.
But, so you think it was inexpensive to make?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was the cheapest thing ever, but I can't believe that it would have been like, a budget buster by any means. Yeah. Yeah. When you really look at talking about economies of scale, I mean, I've seen the behind the scenes, how they did it, and so much of it was green screen, which looks incredible because you can't really tell.
Right.
And on these big, massive sound stages, they did some location here and there, of course. But anyway, so, well, I'm with you. And I'm my hat's off to A&E Networks for doing that. It's about the time A&E produced something that wasn't garbage. They went so reality TV the past 10 years. But it was tremendously good. I found that really interesting, too. I was excited about that. Just really quickly, I don't think you saw this, so I won't go too long on this, but everybody knows I'm a Trekker. I did, catch Star Trek Discovery, all of it, and I'm caught up to it. And I've been recently catching the little short treks, which are like 10-minute episodes they've created, 10 or 15-minute episodes they've created to kind of tide you over until the next series starts. I don't love it. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't love it. I don't really like the way a lot of it's being retconned. I don't really care for some of those things. But if I just do what I've done finally with the JJ Universe stuff and just come at peace to it and realize, you can want it to be this way, you can all you want, but it's not your call. So you can either watch it and enjoy it or ignore it. It's up to you. That's what I tell myself. And so what I'm trying to do when I do watch it is just take in whatever I can to enjoy it. I still feel this way about Discovery. I don't feel nothing against Sonequa Martin Green, but I don't find her compelling or interesting. I mean, this character at least. I mean, she's a good actress. She was on The Walking Dead, and she did nice work there. But I don't find her all that interesting to carry the show. I think the ensemble's interesting to a degree, although they had a really great male character who was, I believe, killed off, and so he's gone. But that was something I caught, and I guess I'll go ahead and tune into next year. What did you ever get anywhere with that one, Jason?
I got through the first episode, and it wasn't compelling enough. Now that has the second season started airing or not yet?
Everything starts in January.
Starts in January. Okay, so now that it has a second season, a lot of shows kind of find their legs.
Yeah, especially Star Trek. Yeah. So I might go back and watch the first season and see if that carries me into season 2. I might. I don't have the same, I was going to use the word baggage, but it's not the right word. I don't have the same relationship with Star Trek that you do. Right.
So when you mention things about like fan service and stuff, a lot of that passes over my head.
Right.
I get the big references, but even the first episode of the first season, and I don't think this will spoil too much. The thing that I found, you used the word retconned, but the thing that I found off-putting was the change of the Klingons.
Yeah.
And their actual appearance. And I think I struggled with that too much. And so that pulled me out of any enjoyment I could have had. I think if I made peace with, hey, it's a new era, they're telling new Star Trek stories in a new way. I think if I made peace with that, I think I'd enjoy it more.
Well, yeah, because when I saw the Klingons, I was like, it's just, come on. I mean, the one thing about the makeup is so heavy that the actors can barely emote. They can use their voices, but guess what? They don't even get to speak English.
Right.
Can you imagine being an actor buried under all that crap, all that latex? You can barely manipulate with your facial features. You got your eyes, which have, by the way, contacts on them.
Yeah.
And then you can't even really speak English. So the acting job is terrible. And they're, now I hear they're going to add some hair to them. Believe it or not, whatever. But yeah, I mean, say what you will about the makeup, the basically the Worf era Klingon makeup. At least he could emote with it on.
Yeah, and he's my benchmark, I think, for the Klingon race. And I know he's different.
Yeah,
because he's in Starfleet, and that was kind of his raison d'etre, right? Is that was the twist? Is that this Klingon is now a member of Starfleet? But for me, that was kind of my coming of age with Star Trek, was the Next Generation, that series.
Right.
And so Worf to me is kind of the pinnacle Klingon. So such a drastic change that put me off initially. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'll probably listen to you and see what you say about season 2 of Discovery and see if it.
Well, they're dangling something kind of cool here. I gotta say, they got the USS Enterprise, which we saw at the last episode of the season, and Captain Pike is there, and and number 1, played by now. If you remember the Captain Pike episode of the original series, number 1 was played by Majel Barrett Roddenberry. First officer was a woman, and of course that didn't last because the bigwigs at CBS or wherever it was did not like that. But they made her a nurse. Jeez.
Right.
But they have that character played by Rebecca Romaine Lettuce. I'm sorry, Rebecca Romaine. She is playing number 1, and Ensign Mount. What a name. Insert joke here. I mean, really. But he was on that. Oh shoot, he was on that show with Call Meany. Oh, it was the Western. Well, it was on A&E. It was it's about the railroad and all. I'm blanking. Somebody's listening out there going, "It was this, you idiot." Anyway, but Anson Mount was on that show, and now he's Captain Pike, and they're showing, and the uniforms are Pike is wearing basically the uniform that we first saw Kirk and Spock wearing. There's a new Spock actor. There's some interesting stuff there. I've got to go. I mean, even if it's a train wreck, I gotta go. I gotta see it. So I'll let you know. I'll report back. And we're running out of time here because I promised people we'd keep this one brief, or maybe I just promised you and me. But the other thing, pop culturally, we've mentioned some books we've read and some shows we've enjoyed. I just have to say one more time too that I'm still wrecked by Anthony Bourdain's passing. I don't want to overstate it. I never knew the man, but I always felt like I did because I spent so much time with him traveling the world through his various shows, and I've read all his books. And I've read his first book. I can't tell you how many times, and I've got the audio version, so it's weird. I even dream about Bourdain, Jason. I had a dream the other night.
Really?
I had a dream, and it wasn't because. And usually it's because I'll fall asleep listening to his book in my ear, and I'll dream about the story or the podcast, whatever. This was a night I was not even listening to anything. I had this vivid dream that I was, here we go, going back in time, and I was with Tony, and I knew he was having a problem, and my job was, to try to keep him from doing anything bad, and I failed, and it was just this horrible dream, and I woke up and I was just like, but it's like it, without getting maudlin about it, it speaks to the man's genius that he's been dead for almost a year now, or getting close to it, and it still rattles people, and it's still raw, and it's still awful. And I don't know, Jason, that you were a big fan or not. I don't think you were. Am I wrong?
I'm not connected with him and his work, like certainly not like you are. That really speaks to the connection that he made with his fans, viewers, readers, that you are continue to be disaffected by that. That's powerful.
It is, and I don't want to, I don't want to overstate it. But it's real, and I think we're gonna. I think his fans are gonna miss him for a good long time. And if you're listening and you've got an issue and got a concern, there's a lot of places you can go to get help. One thing about suicide that I know. I've done a lot of research on it because I've written about it, and I've had people I know do it, is they did a study about some people who jumped off bridges, and the people who survived, like the Golden Gate Bridge, are survivors, and every one of them said as soon as they let go of the bridge and jumped, they regretted it, that they wish they hadn't done it, and of course they lived to be able to tell the tale. So it's pretty evidential that people who commit suicide, it's a momentary thing where all the wrong things come together at once, and they regret it. So I hope anybody who's in pain out there will find some help and know that it's not the best answer. There's other ways to help you with your pain and your issues. So I just wanted to mention him and say, if you haven't read Kitchen Confidential, it's a delightful read, and you really will enjoy it. And some of his other stuff's really good too. And I find myself getting on YouTube occasionally. I have my TV's hooked up to YouTube, which is a really cool thing nowadays. And I'll watch old interviews with him or episodes and stuff. And it's still enjoyable. It's a little hard to watch the the last season. I haven't watched those yet, Jason. I just haven't felt like I just mentally don't want to go there and realize this is the last few hours that we'll ever see from him. So, but I'm going to. I'm gonna watch it all in January, in the middle of the winter when things are dreary, and I'm gonna try and watch it with a hopeful and happy frame of mind, and try to not be sad that he's gone, but be happy that he was here at all, to paraphrase Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, I still do that with when a Bowie song comes on.
Oh, jeez.
On the random generator of music that I have.
Right.
Still, so I think I get it, what you're saying.
Yeah. Do you and Bowie too. I think I even tweeted that yesterday. I had there's a GIF of Bowie, and I just put I miss, and there's just GIF of Bowie and all these different guises. Do you have and I'm putting you on the spot if you don't have a thing at your fingertips. Do you have a song of the year, an album of the year, something that really sticks with you?
Oh, you know what? Excuse any clicking noises, but I was just looking through before we started. I was looking through some of the albums that I downloaded this year. You're gonna maybe laugh at this. Well, I don't know if it's album of the year. I really dug the Death Cab for Cutie album, which is called Thank You for Today.
Yeah.
That was a really, really strong pop album. The new one by Phosphorescent that came out this year, I think it's called C'est la vie.
Yeah.
There's a theme there with the titles of those records. But this one's going to amuse you. I saw a little movie called Hearts Beat Loud, which has Nick Offerman.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Nick Offerman?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that movie?
I have not.
And it has original music by Keegan DeWitt, who I'd never heard of, but I just found the pop music in that movie, which is centered on this middle-aged man who owns a record shop, and his wife's gone, and he's got a grown daughter who's just on the cusp of going off to college, and they've always connected through music. They played music together growing up after the mom was gone, and it's an incredibly sweet movie with this really, really catchy pop score to it. And so that's one of my more favorite albums this year, is the Hearts Beat Loud soundtrack, to be honest.
Hearts Beat Loud. All right, I'm going to look into that. Thank you. I'm writing that down right now. And the other stuff you mentioned too. I was going to say that, I can't believe I'm saying this, and it's not anything against him, but Paul McCartney's Egypt Station is one of the best albums he's done in the past 25 years.
I'm reading that, but I haven't listened to it yet. Can you believe it?
It's a solid album. It's really good. It'll surprise you. This guy is pushing 80, and he's just rocking like crazy. I would also recommend Lindsey Buckingham solo anthology from Fleetwood Mac. By the way, the lawsuit is settled between Fleetwood Mac and Lindsey. He won't be touring with them, but maybe the healing can begin for the fractious Mac. But maybe it's time that they stop. And I really found myself enjoying that, and there's a great channel on SiriusXM satellite radio called The Spectrum, and it helps me find wonderful music. Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, sir.
I'm also liking one. My daughter kind of turned me on to listening to her station in the car. She's 10, but it's something called Lovely the Band, and they have a song called Finding It. It's called, I think it's called Broken. Yeah. Finding It. It's from the album Finding It Hard to Smile by Lovely the Band. That's all one word. There's some great stuff there. Snow Patrol, Don't Give In. Was that this year? It may have been 2 years ago. I don't know that song.
I think it was a little bit longer ago, but yeah, good though.
I discovered it, in a big way this year, and my daughter will hear it, and it's the non-cleaned up version, and she'll be like, "Dad, turn that off," because they drop an F-bomb. but she's like, "I know what it means," and I'm like, "Okay, good." So those things, and I'm going to recommend one more show, just real quick, because we're running out of time here. If you haven't seen on Netflix The Kaminsky Method, now I'm older, and I'm older than you, Jason. But it's about two older guys, Alan Arkin and Michael Douglas, two Oscar winners. It's a half-hour comedy on Netflix. There's about 8 episodes. Easy to binge it out. I watched it all in one day. It's a delight. It's funny. It's poignant. It's well acted. It's not maudlin really or sappy. In particular, I mean, male or female, if you have best friends, really close friends, people that are important to you, this show will speak to you. And more than anything else, you get to find out what the hell is going on with Eddie Money. I don't think you've watched that one yet, have you?
No, I did. You recommended it.
Oh, you did watch it all. You did.
Yeah,
watch it
I
all.
watched it all. I watched it in 2 sittings, simply because I couldn't finish the last 2 episodes. It was like 1 a.m. That's how much I enjoyed it. And yes, you are a little bit older than I am, Alex, but I could still relate to these guys.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I wondered if like because you're younger, and I just thought, well, are they? Because these guys are 30 plus years older than you, and they're 20 something years older than me.
Right.
So maybe you were watching it going, oh my god, but you weren't.
I think I looked it up, and I think Michael Douglas is 74 and Alan Arkin is 84.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think they're playing that age in the show. I want to say that Michael Douglas's character is maybe 10 years younger than...
Do you think they're playing about 10 years younger?
I kind of thought so when I was watching it. I thought maybe Michael Douglas was in his mid-60s in the show.
That sounds right.
It doesn't really matter that much because, like I said, I can relate to it, and I'm a younger demographic. I get a lot of that that feeling of, well, I've reached this certain age, and have I accomplished everything I want to accomplish? While my mind and my body are starting to break down a little bit. Like I can relate to some of those things.
Right.
And it was just really well written and well acted. I liked it.
The Kaminsky Method, I recommend it. And again, it was really great to rediscover Eddie Money, and that's all I'll say about he's from my youth. Jason, I'm sure that part you're like, yeah, pass. But
no, it's good.
Did you think that, by the way, that was an effective use of oh my god, the song, his big baby? Oh, jeez.
Of the Eddie Money
Baby
song?
Hold On? Is it Baby Hold On? Yeah, the Eddie they used the song in the preview trailer too.
I didn't see any trailers, but is it Baby Come Back to Me?
Is it Baby Come? What is? Oh my gosh!
No,
hang on, because this is gonna drive me crazy. I mean, if I heard the song, it's boom, I got it. I could even sing it, but I'm not.
While you do an internet search on that, I'll just mention that I'm currently...
Baby Hold On. Go ahead.
Baby Hold On. Okay, I'm currently enjoying immensely Escape at Dannemora.
Oh, I can't get that. I don't have that channel.
Okay.
That's a Ben Stiller joint.
Yeah, it's directed by Ben Stiller, which was a shock to me. I know that he's directed in the past. I mean, he directed Reality Bites.
Cable Guy.
Which is... Yeah, right. But this is so different from those. It's a prison break drama with really compelling characters that you wish you weren't the type of person that was rooting for them, because I mean, 2 of them are not mass murderers, but murderers, and they're in prison for murder.
Right. And
you still feel compelled to watch them. And it's based on a true story that actually happened in upstate New York, of this prison break where they kind of befriended some of the guards and the workers at the prison to help them get out.
Yeah.
It's really well done. I would highly recommend Escape at Dannemora.
I keep hearing that, by the way. And so, and if you're, stamp of approval from J-Mac, I'm there. So
it's totally my kind of thing. It's not really fast moving in the first half of the series. I think it's 7 parts, and we're up to part 5. So the first 3 episodes are kind of character and world building,
right,
which I usually don't, usually I can skip a lot of that, but the way Stiller and company did it here, it's very effective for me. I loved it.
Well, very cool. I've got one more recommendation. I haven't seen it yet. This is something I'm recommending to myself. I'd read the Esquire magazine cover story with Bruce Springsteen, and anybody who's if you've survived a rough upbringing in any way, you should read this. And it might trigger you a little if you have issues with your upbringing, but Bruce is very candid about it. But he's also candid about his Broadway show, which just ended, but they filmed it. It's available right now on Netflix. I'm going to watch that probably this weekend. I hear it's magnificent. So recommendation there for magazine, Esquire, with Bruce Springsteen, the American version at least. I don't know if Canada has the same version. I know that Britain has a different cover altogether usually, so I don't know. But again, it's Tim Hortons.
I will look into it and let you know. Yeah,
and if you do read it, let me know, buddy, because there's a line in it, a couple lines that I underlined that I'm going to share it with somebody I speak with about my issues and stuff. So It's really good. You know what? Clock on the Wall show, and we've been going about an hour here, and I think the crowd would be happy if we, said goodnight, Gracie. Yep. There. Okay. Thank you. You guys don't have to be so about it. Fine. If you want to learn more about J-Mac, again, where do we find you?
thefarthestreaches.com.
You're available on Amazon, all your stuff, right?
Yes, sir, and yours as well, right? On Amazon
all usual.
Are you exclusive to Amazon now, or
I have a couple of titles that are exclusive to Amazon, and I am probably going to, after the Omnibus edition is done, I'm probably going to work towards remove. I've got some of my early titles were with a different kind of publisher with Lulu, and I don't really want to leave them there. I want to get them out of there, and so I'll probably just gravitate or transition them all over to Amazon. I still have some titles that are available on Barnes & Noble and some of the other places, but frankly, 90 to 95% of my sales are from Amazon, and I hate to give in, but I don't see any reason to keep those other channels alive at this point.
Yeah, I'm probably with you there.
Yeah, it's just work. It was the first few years. I mean, I'm celebrating next year 10 years of being published, and those first few years, yeah, it was pretty good. But it went down precipitously the past couple of three.
It did, yeah. So for me personally, from middle of 2010 to about 2013, I was getting pretty good sales at Sony, Barnes & Noble,
yep,
iTunes, and a couple other smaller ones that are now gone. Yeah. So, but that's all gone now. For me, anyway, sales from those channels are basically dry.
Sad, but true.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of the beast. And, if I want to take them out of exclusivity, there's a process to do that, and I can do that, so I will. But, okay, folks, I hope you'll do it. Jason, hey, thanks again for coming in, buddy. I really appreciate it. It's so great to talk with you.
My pleasure. It's always great to talk with you. It's funny to me how, we talk a lot, but it's funny to me when we talk about the things we like, music, books, TV shows, whatever, pop culture. It seems to me that we gravitate towards a lot of the same things without talking about them first,
Yeah.
We find and we discover that, oh, you like this too. I mean, there's certain things we diverge on, which is totally fine.
True.
It's interesting to me how we find things separately a lot of the times as well.
Right.
So anyway, it didn't feel like an hour. Maybe it did to the audience, but not to me.
It didn't to me either, buddy. I could go on, and that's why you and I are good drinking buddies too. We just sit there and just solve all the world's problems. But this is great, and I didn't even mention like some of the other stuff I really love this year. The one for sure, but I didn't mention because I didn't want to argue with you. But Sting and Shaggy, I love that album. Jason, you didn't. I know you didn't.
I didn't. I've never. Okay, so Shaggy was big.
Here we go.
No, listen. Shaggy was big here when I was in my university days, and he was played to death here. He was a huge hit here.
Right.
And his voice just is too much. It's kind of, it was overdone for me. And I know that's like a decade ago or a decade and a half now, but so I couldn't get through. I like the Sting parts that I listen to, but the Shaggy, I just can't get behind Shaggy.
Right. Well, then you should get 57th and 9th, Sting's other album, if you haven't
which
heard
I like, which I really like.
Really good. That was was that this year? No, it was last year.
No, that was last year, yeah.
Yeah, but that was great too, and we saw him tour with that album. He toured with Shaggy through here, and my wife and I just couldn't get it together and go. It was just like, we just moved to a new house and a few months earlier, and there's just so much shiz going on. And I was working every weekend. I was just like, I can't believe it's the first tour where he's been in the town where I lived that I've missed since the 90s. I haven't missed a tour since then till now, but it's the way it is. Well, anyway, please go to pilotescross.com for more of my work, my blog, which is periodically updated. Don't forget that John Pilate Mysteries is on Facebook. Just look up John Pilate, Pilate Mysteries on Facebook for that gets updated virtually every day. And we will update this podcast. I hereby pledge to you, 2019, there will be at least a dozen episodes, one per month. And
Another pledge. Yay.
Yes. He's like, he's going to nail my ass for this. But I'm telling you right now, and I pledge this too, and I haven't even asked him, but J-Mac will be on at least one or two of them. So.
Oh my, well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I've already just volunteered you, so I hope you're going to do it. All right. Until next time, if there's anything else, Jason, are we good?
We're good. I'm just thinking you may have to, if it's going to be two, you might have to just record one and split it in half because we tend to go on.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I haven't asked in a long time, but if you're reviewing this on Apple Podcasts, if you haven't given me 4 or 5 stars there, that would sure help me get noticed. I got to be honest with you. I've also put some feelers out to interview some other podcasters, and I've been politely rebuffed. And I think part of the reason is they're going back and looking at my podcast and going, "Why should I be interviewed by that guy? He isn't doing better than I am." So, if you haven't reviewed the podcast Mysterious Goings On, I hope you will. It'd be such a boost to me. And in fact, I'll read your review on the air. All right. I want to just say one last thing. We're here such a very short time. One reason I think it touched me so much when with Bourdain was it is just a reminder, and then the article with Springsteen. This life's full of pain. There's so many things. There's so many reasons to turn your back on things. There's a shit show in Washington D.C. There's all this stuff. There's crime. There's all these horrible things. There's illness. There's uncertainty. But there's also something that I share with this guy on the other end of the line here. There's friendship, and there's love, and there's family. And there's the family you choose, which are friends. And if you have let those relationships go fallow in 2018 for whatever reason, work or sadness or putting a substance between you and those people, I hope 2019 you'll really look at those relationships and turn a corner. Don't hurt yourself by putting yourself into a situation where you have to deal with people who aren't good for you. But if you have turned your back on people or changed your mind about certain things and realized that maybe I need to maybe be more open about things and open my heart up, I hope you'll consider doing that. And I'm sorry to preach at you at the end of the show, but I get a little schmaltzy and sentimental at the end of the year. And I just want everybody to do their best to have a wonderful, wonderful life. So
Amen.
Thank you. And in the meantime, I hope you will consider my usual admonishment and keep reading.
It's hosting season, which means it's too many people in the house season.
Can I sit on this? Nope.
Casserole burning in the oven season.
Anyone smell that? My yams!
And Aunt Meg giving advice season.
You should enter eligible New York Lottery draw game tickets with Collect and Win. You could win a $5,000 gift card to use at the Home Depot to make hosting a little easier.
Wow, Aunt Meg, that's actually great advice.
The Home Depot is not a sponsor of this promotion. You must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket. You must be 21 or older to purchase a quick draw ticket where alcoholic beverages are served. Please play responsibly. Ended by 1720.
It's hosting season. And this hosting season, you could enter eligible New York Lottery draw game tickets with Collect and Win for a chance to win a $5,000 gift card to use at the Home Depot. So, enter today and make one of the most stressful times of the year a little easier.
The Home Depot is not a sponsor of this promotion. You must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket. You must be 21 or older to purchase a quick draw ticket where alcoholic beverages are served. Please play responsibly. Ended by 1720.